Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the hashtag sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets postgame, sponsored by Mr. Rogers Homes. You can find all of our social TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all in our link tree. All episodes will be on iTunes and Spotify upon completion. Paul, 40-14. We saw a Shavers touchdown. We saw Tyrod Taylor. We saw a big man interception. We saw a lot of stuff today and about 267 flags.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start?
Yeah. Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my, it was quite the collection tonight. Right. If you told me that Aaron Rodgers, because here's where this one's fun to me, right? This could be the last game that Rodgers plays in Buffalo, because I would not put it past him to just be like, yeah, I'm not coming back for this.
I'm not signing up for this again.
I'm done. Right. Like I'm done. So if you were, again, to tell me that Tyrod Taylor would have the Jets' first passing touchdown of the day, like, good job, Buffalo. But again, you beat a 4-win team here, and a team that I think a lot of people were worried about in Buffalo coming into the season. You're like, oh, you got Rodgers, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall, some weapons, but that offensive line is not very good. Despite what they've tried to do to it, it's just not very good. And you fired your head coach like 7 weeks ago. Like, what's going on with New York? And I just can't imagine Rodgers coming back to a situation where he's got another head coach, right? Like, he and Saleh didn't see eye to eye as it was. So, like, isn't this kind of what was supposed to happen?
Which coach would he play for at this point?
Right.
Like, it's weird to see, like, what coach does he respect enough to listen to?
Yeah.
In order to do a few, I don't know. The New York Packers at 4-12 are not doing very, very well.
Well, and I would not beholden my franchise to the Aaron Rodgers that I saw tonight. I'll tell you that right now. If that's the guy that's going to show up for the next 17 weeks for me next year, you're only going to be playing 17 weeks. No thanks. Right? I mean, Mar, do you think that team is anywhere close to being a playoff team in the AFC East?
Their defense is really good. I like their defense. Despite being having 40 dropped on them, you know as well as I do that sometimes shifts in the game happen, and where if your offense isn't producing, your defense is on the field quite a bit, and a bunch of different things are going on. I think they have so much talent on the defensive side, but they ran into a team that everybody said all week, oh, you barely beat the 3-11 Patriots, and they were pissed off.
Yeah,
it's for lack of a better word. So,
and Mar, like, let's not forget, this game ended 40-14, but it was 12-0 going into halftime.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there were chances that the Buffalo Bills could have capitalized, and they didn't, and they had some struggles. And sorry, I'm a little distracted because I keep starting fights on Twitter.
That's it. I didn't change this from last week, Mar. Josh Allen is the MVP. It's a major award. I did not change that.
Most valuable player, and we can get into that now, Paul. We could do that.
The MVP stuff
right this second. I mean, we could talk about the game. It was an absolute shellacking, but we could have some fun right now because Lamar's not my MVP. Neither is Allen.
Saquon. They don't give MVPs to running backs.
Honestly, when Henry broke 2,000 in 2020. And they gave him the Offensive Player of the Year award because Rodgers had 48-5, and he had 70% completion percentage. Okay, that's where the precedent was set for this award, and it was his team didn't have the best record in the NFL, but they were one off. And I've said for weeks, and I've told people this for weeks, 13 or 12 out of the last 15 award winners were quarterbacks from teams that had the best record. I mean, how else do you explain Brock Purdy getting nominated last year? However, when you look at the award now, the MVP is the most valuable quarterback in the NFL. Basically what it is. And the Offensive Player of the Year is who it should go to. CMC should have got it last year. You and I both agreed that he should have got the award last year. For this year, if we're going based on statistics, nobody's mentioning Joe Burrow.
Well, I mean, the team's 8-8.
But what I'm saying is that it proves the point of they're only in games because of him. You know, you could make the argument in Baltimore that Henry against playoff caliber teams, He's rushing over a $150, $125. He's scoring multiple times. Allen, you could say that James Cook stepped up this year. And, a couple of the offensive line that Allen has right now is the best he's ever had in his career.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of different things. But Burrow completing almost 70% of his passes, 4,600 yards, 42 to 8 touchdown to interception ratio is literally carrying that team. Yeah. And if they want to make the argument about statistics, now last year, what did I just say? I said CMC was my MVP. Allen was not going to get it with 18 picks. I'm sorry, guys. You can keep comparing the stats of him and Lamar last year. He wasn't getting it with 18 picks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Agreed.
But
totally agreed.
Yeah, but if you want to go on the precedent that you set with Aaron Rodgers back in 2020, Saquon is the offensive player of the year, and Joe Burrow is your MVP, lock it up, go home, have a good day. What are we doing here? That's me, Paul. That's me.
Aaron, who would Burrow take votes away from? Allen.
He would.
That is an excellent point.
That is an amazing
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. I don't think Lamar, because I think it's important to talk about how the MVP is decided, right? Because that's one thing that we talk about is, it's important to make sure that you get it's that the best players are represented in MVP voting, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to NFL awards, I think people forget that these awards aren't always voted on by the people to whom you think they're voted on. So, and again, if you want to look at this, right, the voting format in the NFL has been something that's been under scrutiny for years, right?
Yes.
But the most valuable player is decided during the regular season, right? And the NFL MVP awards include the Pro Football Writers Association and the Associated Press. So it is a panel of writers, sports
50,
writers.
Right? There's 50 people. Right?
I thought that got changed, but 50 sounds correct.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember they thought Lamar should have been unanimous last year. He got 49.
Yeah.
And I think who got the one? Was it CMC that got the one?
It must have been.
It must have. I don't know. I'll look it up, but.
Let's see here. Because NFL.com ran a story December 18th. Let's see here. It talks about NFL executives being able to vote.
Allen got the one last year.
Allen got the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's hard to argue because Saquon is running up Eric Dickerson's tail right now. And mind you, he had an extra game to do it. But, it's hard to argue against Saquon setting the single season rushing record, right? Mind you, it'll be in 17 games. But, we talked about CMC last year. He didn't. I mean, at some point, you just have to rename the award because it's quarterback.
Yeah, because CMC had over 2,000 yards last year, 21 touchdowns. And you saw what San Francisco looked like this year without him. I mean, it was the fact that Brock Purdy was in there too was something else. Dak Prescott having better numbers. He completed over 100 more passes than Lamar last year and had 36-9 touchdown to interception ratio. If you want to talk about it, it's because I already know what's going to happen, Paul. I already see it, the writing on the wall. Here's what's going to happen. Josh Allen is not going to get the MVP. Mahomes, Burrow, and Jackson are going to get the Pro Bowl vote. And Allen's going to win the Super Bowl to throw a wrench in the entire thing.
Whatever. So there is a story on NFL.com written by Tom Pelissaro. And now, mind you, this is not a great collection, and it's all anonymous. So he did voting stating he had 27 high-ranking executives from 27 NFL teams, including 17 general managers. All 27 individuals participated on a condition of anonymity for competitive reasons to provide an honest assessment. Voted most valuable player, Josh Allen received 22 of 27 votes.
And it's how,
but those are football people, and we're not talking. We get the Pro Football Writers Association and the AP. That's who's voting. The GMs also voted, as we've just talked about, Saquon as the offensive player of the year, receiving 19 of those votes. JJ Watt was defensive player of the year according to that vote. Offensive rookie of the year went to Jaden Daniels, which is no shock at all. Defensive rookie of the year was Jared Verse. That one was pretty close. And coach of the year was Kevin O'Connell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I take that.
All those make sense. If that was the way the NFL voting actually worked out for the NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, I think that all that checks, right? Like that all tracks to me.
Does Darnold get the comeback player of the year then?
That's interesting, right? Because they put in, I think they put in a thing for the NFL comeback player of the year that they have to be coming back from injury.
Oh, they redid it.
Ineffectiveness.
They redid it. Okay.
Well, right, because DeMar didn't win it. Flacco won it. And they went, that's not what that award's supposed to be for. So we're just going to make sure that it's coming back from injury. So
the elite Joe Flacco, people had doubts.
Yeah, the elite Joe Flacco.
I'm just at this point, Paul, I am very, it's not, people talk about voter fatigue. You know what I mean? I am exhausted with bringing up points and things to try to talk back and forth, because the same people that are making the argument, because there's a select coalition of people that are arguing on social media. There's a one group that are arguing, well, the stats, Allen had the stats last year and Lamar had the record. Now what's going to happen now that Lamar has the stats and Allen has the record, how can you switch the voting on that? And those two people are fighting. And then these people over here are arguing over the fact that, well, Lamar went and won 13 games and won the MVP, and they added a Hall of Fame running back. Allen lost a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and those people are fighting. Well, you can't punish Lamar because he has Henry, a 30-year-old running back, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And then there's the people who are, I think, falsely arguing, but unfortunately, this is how the award works. Wins and losses. In both of those cases, wins and losses are coming into play. And I can't stress enough how I become a believer in the fact that wins are not a quarterback statistic. I mean, you could clearly point at that 2021 game where Allen left the field with the lead and 13 seconds left, never got back on the field, played the most perfect game you could play against a team and lost. You could argue the divisional game last year that no one scored more than one touchdown against that Kansas City defense last year. Well, Allen scored 3.
And Mark, they're both, if you're going to say Baltimore versus Buffalo, right? They're both prolific offenses in the total points scored, right? Buffalo has scored 30 or more points in 12 games this year, where Baltimore's done it in 10. Those are gaudy numbers, right? Yes. But the fact is, Buffalo on average, like you've seen Mitch Trubisky now in 7 games? Is it today was his 7th appearance, I think? Is that right? Because Mark, you and I talked about this.
I did it. Allen has played, and I did the statistics on this too. Lamar Jackson has played 1,007 snaps for the Baltimore Ravens. Prior to week 14, Paul, only, what was it? It was 12 snaps he didn't play on the offense all season. 12. By that time, Allen had sat down 44 snaps.
Right.
So as it stands right now, the last few weeks have been a little bit different. Lamar Jackson has not played 33 of the offensive snaps. Allen has not played 54 of the offensive snaps, but they played different amount of snaps.
Well, and Allen is including today. Let's not forget.
No, I included today.
You included
in this statistic today, because both offenses have run different amount of snaps. So as it stands right now today, updated statistics, Lamar Jackson has run 50 offensive plays more than Josh Allen. If you think about it in that respect, that's close to a full game. That's 3+ quarters. Yeah. So if you wanted to take statistics and bring statistics into the argument, you divide Lamar's by 16, you divide Allen's by 15. What do we got now? How do they look now? It's interesting. It is very interesting to see that, because people don't take a lot of those things into account when they're trying to factor in, well, look at his numbers. Well, it was never a numbers-based award.
Right.
What are you talking about here? It was Lamar through Allen had 15 more touchdowns than Lamar last year. I understand that, guys, but he wasn't getting it throwing 18 picks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That would have completely demolished the award. even though you think he's the most valuable player in the league, how do you judge that award? Is it valuable to your team, valuable to the league? How do you define that? Most valuable quarterback? Like, what are we talking about here when the award gets handed out?
Well, and I think that another part of that is we need to have a late entrant into the MVP race. Mitch Trubisky with a perfect quarterback rating today at 158.3.
He threw a pass.
1 for 1 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Congrats to Tyrell Shavers, right? Congrats Tyrell Shavers.
Do you know some of the arguments I've seen on Twitter? Because I'm on Twitter more than you. And
more than you need to be. Yeah, you're on Twitter far more than you need to be. Without a doubt.
Somebody posted a picture of the freeze frame of the Baltimore Bills game where it was 35-10. And they tried being all cocky with it and said, "Oh, we're not going to talk about Allen getting pulled against Baltimore earlier this year." Excuse me? He was down 25 with 7 minutes left. Like, of course they're going to take him out. Let me know you don't watch football without telling me you don't watch football.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's amazing the amount of shots that people are throwing when, in actuality, I don't think Lamar or Allen could care less. I think they both want the elusive ring that everyone else is chasing.
And, I think there's a lot goes into talking about a player's role in the offense as well, because Baltimore put a beating on the Texans, right?
They did.
Put an absolute beating on the Texans. The Texans scored 2 points in the second quarter. That was it, right? Yep. That was it. Now, Baltimore scored 31. Lamar did it on 15 pass attempts. What does that tell you about Houston, who is a playoff team?
Yeah, Houston's wine. The Houston that Baltimore played yesterday. After the whole Tank Dell thing, I think that took the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
Prayers to Tank Dell. In his recovery and everything. But everything that has happened, if Buffalo would have played the team that Baltimore played, it'd have been a different story.
Yeah.
If the third game that Baltimore played was against Houston that the Bills played earlier in the season, I don't think that game goes the same way.
Right.
I really don't. But here's my argument that I've yet to get a rebuttal from when talking about the Josh Allen, just specifically the Josh versus Lamar. Like I already said, give it to Burrow. Based on what the precedent you've said about the thing.
But if they don't make the playoffs, can you give it to Burrow? If they're not a playoff team, Mark,
you've given it to A-Rod. No, not that A-Rod.
Different sport.
The Texas Rangers A-Rod. No, I know. But I know you can't. But
yeah,
you're going to be setting a precedent to make it stats based. Then you're simply going to make it a precedent, which you've already done that in 2020. He didn't have the best record in the league. They made the playoffs, and he had a phenomenal year. How could you not reward a 48-5 quarterback that threw 70% completion percentage?
I know.
And Burrow's kind of nearing that right now. Like he's the hottest quarterback, I think, in the NFL going on right now. He just doesn't have a defense. But it specifically talking about the Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen debate. I said this. I said, listen, I know every defensive coordinator, without even talking to them, for 16 games said we have to stop 17. That's our number one primary goal. We have to keep him in the pocket, maintain your lane rushes, do this, that, and the third. Okay. I can't be guaranteed for certain that for 16 games, everyone said they had to stop Lamar. I think for some of those games, they're like, we have to contain Henry. We're putting 8 in the box. We're playing man. If Lamar beats us, maybe he beats us. And guess what? He has. His wide receivers are averaging the most separation of any quarterback in the league.
And it's not even close.
It's not even close. So what does that mean? You should be leading the league in passer rating. You should be leading the league in passing touchdowns.
Yep.
But it's so funny with the stat patterns that come out. Paul, I told you before, I think it was before the broadcast, might have been early. 17 touchdowns Lamar has thrown less than 10 yards this year. 17.
Yeah.
You want to question the tush push for Josh Allen for 1 yard touchdowns? Well, they're not all 1 yard touchdowns, But your quarterback has thrown 17 touchdowns within the 10 when you have that horse in the backfield.
Right.
What are we talking about here? Like literally, what are we talking about?
So I do want to point out that right now, isn't it fun, the vested interest that we have in Kansas City versus the Broncos next week? Right? Like, so you're talking about, oh, well, Burrow could be the MVP. So is that a team you want to play in the first round of the playoffs? Because it's either the Broncos or the Bengals. So if you're trying to scare the living hell out of Bills Mafia by talking Joe Burrow should win the MVP, even if they might not make the playoffs, the fact of the matter is, if they do make the playoffs, that's who Buffalo is going to be playing.
Exactly.
So, what are you saying here? Like,
you're saying you want Denver or Cincy first round?
Well, what I'm asking is, does Kansas City have a vested interest in this game against the Broncos? Because they solely control Denver's fate, right? Denver wins, they're in. That's
Yep.
Denver wins and they're in. That's it, right? Because the Bengals will always be a game behind them right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, for Kansas City's sake, like we're taking Kansas City's perspective here, they beat Denver. There's a possibility they get Cincinnati after the Bills play them. You're saying, because Cincinnati would have to go through the Bills first, right?
Right.
Then
well,
that's
what I'm saying, right? So who would you rather throw against the Bills in the first round of the playoffs, right? Would you rather throw the Broncos at the Bills in the first round of the playoffs, or would you rather have
Denver? You beat Denver.
You beat Denver, and not let things happen.
Torch that. But the thing was, it's weird because the Buffalo Bills, what have we been saying all year, is the fact that their run defense is abysmal. Not really so much their pass defense, which is another thing I wanted to go into, and I want to shift over to, Paul.
The
combination of Bishop and Rapp today.
And
here's the thing, Mafia and #Nation, that you have to kind of pay close attention to. When they pulled all the starters, guess who the two guys they didn't pull were? Bishop and Rapp.
Yeah. Well, what does that say about DeMar's future, right? Like,
I think he's going to be watching from the bench come playoff time.
I think so too.
Because I think this is the combination that the Bills always wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. And here's your typical McDermott time on task.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not a first round player, this is what happens. You get your opportunities near the middle to the end of the season. And don't get me wrong, right? Buffalo had to go through some pretty nasty injuries. And I think once they looked around and said, what's in the cupboard? They're like, Bishop's, give him a chance, right? Like, look at the injuries they've had at that position. And then you look at how Bishop played and you're like, I'll take the learning curve at this point, right? The talent outweighs. I'll take the learning curve.
It's interesting to see, though, with Douglas coming back and Benford playing the way that he was. And then you got Bishop and Rapp, which to me, for the most part, are both hammers. You could drop both of them down in the box if you wanted to. And I don't think you get that flexibility with DeMar. Like, if you drop DeMar in the box, I think teams know 90% of the time he's going to drop out of there and go into coverage. I don't think you could say the same thing for Bishop.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Rapp's a torpedo, but Bishop maybe spending some time with Micah Hyde in the film room, playing center field, and also coming up to hit you. I mean, Hyde came up every once in a while. Like, it's not like he always stayed back there at center field. So I'm interested to see if they kept him in the game to try to develop some more continuity between both of them as far as disguising what they're doing, because there's not a lot of film on Cole. So what are you going to do? There's a lot of film on DeMar.
Well, and Davis makes a great point. Bishop made some concerning mistakes today, and that's part of the learning curve, right? I think you had no reason to pull Cole Bishop. He hasn't played enough snaps where you're worried about load management. You know, and admittedly, if you are thinking about going back to DeMar, why not continue to put tape of Bishop out? Because now you don't know who's going to be playing for Buffalo. You don't know who's going to be starting, right? So the things that you would do against a player like Cole Bishop are not the same ways that you would attack the weaknesses that DeMar creates, right? So playing Cole Bishop exclusively does benefit you regardless of who you intend on playing. Either you're getting him snaps and you're learning more about him and figuring out how to coach him better with how he's going to play on the field, or you're putting tape out there that isn't going to help come week one of the playoffs. You know,
I think it was a litmus test, though. I mean, for Bishop, I think it was a calculated thing where you're going to play against Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, that receiving core with Rodgers, who can diagnose a defense better than anybody. I mean, he's up there, but he could diagnose a defense better than anybody. If you could disguise stuff against Rodgers and confuse and befuddle him, a lot of the mistakes that Bishop was making was physical mistakes, not mental, not too many mental mistakes out there. So I think for me, that's a combination that this team wanted, and that's why they traded back to acquire another pick, was to get Cole Bishop. After and I mean, we could talk about the Keon versus Worthy argument that's going to happen this week as well. You know what I mean? But Xavier Worthy does not catch that pass in the end zone that Allen throws up. That's all I'm saying.
Oh God, no. Yeah, no, not even close. Yeah, absolutely not even close. Well, and to top it all off, Mar, when you look at what happened across the scope of the game, are you really worried about how Cole Bishop was going to play? Like, this defense played great today.
Oh,
that's an offensive line that you should create pressure on. There's not a very good offensive line at this point. It's pretty riddled by injuries, and they've had problems at the tackle position since forever, and they continue to. So this was a team that you should have put a lot of pressure on. And even so, I do think that there's a lot of, Bills fans expect Greg Rousseau to put up bigger sack numbers. And I don't know if that's really where he is yet, right? Like, he's one of the highest pressure guys in the NFL. Like, he gets a ton of pressure, but he just isn't getting that sack total that every fan loves to chase. And kudos to AJ Epineza for making a play that mattered today, but Epineza has been a big disappointment for me this year. And to me, the story, I think it's easy to look at the secondary and say, yeah, Buffalo's got some questions in the secondary. Look at the linebacker group and say, well, you have Milano back, but he doesn't look like Matt Milano yet. And then you look at the corners and you say, well, Douglas has been in and out. You've had to play Carrier Elam a bit, and that's looked pretty rough. To me, it's all about that defensive line, right? This defense goes as that defensive line goes, because the only way to cover up those mistakes or those issues or that learning curve, or the injuries, is to just get more pressure. And I did feel like the Jets could have run the football on Buffalo if they wanted to.
They did.
And I felt that way. And I felt that way all season, that teams could run the football on Buffalo if they wanted to. But Buffalo's been fortunate to put up 35 points a game on average, or 40 points a game on average. Like 30, what is it? 35 points something points per game.
It's 30. Yeah, it's 30 and some change.
Yeah, it's something absurd. So Buffalo's had the luxury of not really worrying about that outside of the first quarter. After the first quarter, teams are like, yeah, go ahead, run the football.
Once they're able to do what they want to do. I mean, as a team, New York averaged 5.3 yards a carry today. Why don't you do that? Well, you were down 12, you threw a pick, and then they come back down and score on you. You're kind of in a bind. And that's why I think a lot of people are very, very concerned with Baltimore or Buffalo meeting Baltimore in the playoffs, because they could run the ball, and they have two guys back there that can run the ball on you. Yeah. And that is very concerning. Now, the counter argument for that for a lot of Bills fans is that I think 3 starters were out. I think Taron Johnson was out. I think Oliver was out, and I think another defensive lineman was out that game against Baltimore.
Against Pittsburgh.
Against Baltimore.
Baltimore. Yeah, sorry. I meant Baltimore. I don't know why I said Pittsburgh.
That's they're very similar. I mean, they like to win with defense. They do like to win with defense. They do.
Don't white. Jeez.
Well, I said that defense. I'm concerned. No, here's the thing. I was always concerned with Pittsburgh because of their defense. I'm concerned with Baltimore because of their offense. Their defense doesn't scare. Because I think the Bills, if they weren't backed into a corner by an 87-yard touchdown run on the third play of the game, that game probably would have turned out differently. If that game's in Buffalo, I think it turns out differently. You know what I mean? If there's different circumstances to those games, I think it turns out differently. However, that was one of those things early in the year. You ran into a buzzsaw in that Baltimore team. Maybe you probably took them a little too lightly because they came in 1-2 on you, and you were 3-0, and you're the big bad dog in the yard. You know what I mean? And you just got slapped in the face, and sometimes that happens. But I mean, it's fine. But those are concerns that certain Bills Mafia, fans have with, You're facing a team like Baltimore. They can run the ball, and they will stick with running the ball because that's how Harbaugh is. And look what happened. You lose by 25.
Mm-hmm.
So if a team can actually get on the board running the ball against you, it's that, you're right. It's that defensive line that makes everything go on that defense. I mean, you could talk about Benford and Douglas being solid corners in there. You could talk about Terrell Bernard flying around in the middle. If they don't keep bodies off the second level, we're not even hearing about Bernard. We're really
That's right. Yeah. Well, and, I think there's also a lot of flutter around Bills Mafia around, like you've seen the post about Myles Garrett coming to Buffalo. We actually got a question in the chat about it, which made me think about it.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett coming to Buffalo. Danny had asked that, right? He's still playing for Cleveland, right? Like he's still active. He's on the field right now for Cleveland. Well, not right now. Cleveland has the ball, but he's physically in a game right now. But we're in a different generation of football where players on expiring contracts, specifically aging players, and a player that a team has already said, listen, we know we're not going to bring you back. There's a process now where they are cutting these veteran players right at the end of the season to allow them to try and latch on with the playoff team. And that is so fascinating to me, right? Yeah. Because it's a different generation of football, because you could talk about a player like Myles Garrett and say, well, you know what? Cleveland might cut him at the end of the season. Like, not at the end of the season, but like they might cut him before playoff rosters are determined and allow him an opportunity to be picked up by a team that is going to the playoffs. Now, the downside is, right, the further you get into the season, you have to deal with, from a dollar standpoint, it's going to cost you nothing if you're the Bills, right? Because at that point, players on playoff rosters, they're not making their salary. And that's one thing that I don't think we talk about, Mar, is when a team makes the playoffs, a player's contract is only written for regular season games. They may have bonuses based off of performance in the playoffs, but those are unlikely to be earned incentives a vast majority of the time. But other than that, their salary, it's written in the collective bargaining agreement. Everybody makes just about the same amount of money in the playoffs. So no player's contract allows them additional money in the playoffs. So that's why when you take a look at a player like, let's say Myles Garrett gets cut after this game, right? Myles Garrett's going to be cheap for you because he's basically not going to count against the salary cap unless he's got some sort of, playoff incentives that you'll have to pay next year against your salary cap. So the way that the money works out is really fascinating, but we're in a different generation where we could look at players who, are on active rosters right now of teams that aren't going to make the playoffs and say, well, I wonder if this team is going to cut them. Myles Garrett's a perfect example of that.
Are you sure there's nothing in the CBA that talks about, oh, you can't just get rid of a player and have them join another team like immediately? Like
it's wild, isn't it?
It seems like it would have happened already. But
I mean, we've seen it already. Like, remember when the Bills signed Devonta Freeman? Right?
Practice squad.
Devonta Freeman was released right, not long before the end of the season, and he was just put on the practice squad.
That's right. That is right.
Yeah. So this
I guess we never see big name guys do that because the teams that are getting rid of him want some compensation for that. But he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. I don't know.
I'd have to look real quick.
Yeah. I go with the reason that one of the reasons hashtag exists, Paul Thomas Loop.
Oh yeah. Hey, what's up, Tommy boy?
You think that the Bills should add more beef in the middle to minimize those large gainers against them in the running game? They have lateral speed to cover any back, but not north and south. That's fascinating. I think they did that with Jordan Phillips and Jefferson. I think that's what they added in the middle, and they think for right now they're able to slow down the run enough to let their offense get going, which is a very risky thing to do. Is the fact that, okay, we don't need to work on this part of it because we're going to have our offense be up 14. So it's going to take them out of their run game. But like I said before, with Baltimore, they don't care. You got a veteran coach there. They know they can run the ball. They're going to eat some clock and wear down your defense while they cut the lead to 7. That's what they're going to do. Yeah. The key is to try to force Lamar into some situations where It's like teams haven't really been able to figure it out all year. How do you put an 8-man box but play zone behind it?
Right. Yeah.
So that receivers aren't getting so much separation. Like, how do you do that? And then take out Lamar if he decides to run.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the similar things that people try to use to stop Josh Allen, or when he gets out of the pocket and he starts to do things, is some of the things you may implore to try to stop Lamar Jackson. Now, who on the Buffalo Bills do you have play as Lamar Jackson that week, Paul?
Yeah.
You have Codrington back there?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess, right? Curtis Samuel, like.
Oh, yeah. If he's available.
I mean, that's probably where you are there, right? Certainly not Reggie Gilliam. Just for the record, Myles Garrett, if the Browns were to trade or release him, would be $34 million in dead cap money.
30.
No, I can't trade him now, right?
No,
but even if they were to trade him next year, it would be $34 million in dead cap money.
That is insanity.
Yeah, to trade or release him. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why teams don't do it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, in this instance, right? So I was mentioning players that were on expiring deals.
Okay.
Yeah, really, players that are on expiring deals are the ones who are most likely there. You know, like as far as to be cut before the end of the season, especially those guys who are 32, 33. You know, and it just didn't work out for them. You know, that's really what I was talking about.
Speaking of some defensive concerns that I have, Paul, I've already voiced it. I voiced it last week that I was very concerned about Matt Milano. He was not the A1 run stopper before he got injured, and we both agreed on that. Numbers prove that. He is an excellent, made the All-Pro as a coverage linebacker in Sean McDermott's defense, and it was phenomenal to watch. I felt bad because in our group chat and #Nation, you guys put a 1 in the chat if you remember this play. He threw like a quick out to Devontae Adams, and Milano went to go dive to tackle him and completely missed.
Yeah, and it looked like a bag of sand hitting the ground, didn't it?
I put in the chat group chat we had, Milano makes that tackle 2 years ago.
Not too much is wrong about that, to be honest with you.
No, it was bad because I was like, oh, and then I put in there, Williams would have made that tackle. I don't know why. He's wearing a brace on his arm that I've noticed for 2.5 weeks now. Is he hurt? And we're just not knowing this? Is he on the injury report? We're not even paying attention to that. But because he has a brace. I don't know if he's trying to be Milano, but he has a brace on his arm.
Cut it out.
I know. I'm sorry. But I love Dorian Williams in that role. I wish he would get more run. I really do. I really wish Dorian Williams would get more run.
Yeah, well, I mean, you did see Dorian Williams a little bit today, right? I think you're going to start seeing him in packages, right? He's earned the right to take snaps. He really has.
Oh, yeah.
He's earned the right to take snaps.
He has. Dude was 5th in the league in tackles. When Milano came back, you're like, we're done with you now.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's right.
Milano isn't triggering like he used to. Yeah, I mean, it's they're trying to get him back into football shape / what he's able to do, because obviously nothing will beat experience. I mean, that's what he has over Williams, and the experience that he has with some of the games that he's going to be playing against. He's played against Baltimore. He's played against Kansas City. He's played against all these guys. So he has that experience, but does he have the speed to make up for? I mean, just came off a groin injury. I mean, how quick is he going to be sideline to sideline now or in coverage? Right. So it's just very concerning. You know what I mean? So he was blitzing the A gap pretty good though today.
I loved the Cole Bishop safety blitz, man. Like, put that right in my veins. Put that right in my veins.
I do love that too.
Listen, that's one of those scenarios you're looking at, you're like, we're still learning if he can cover, so let's just blitz him a little bit, right? Like Bills did that with Tremaine early in his career, right? Tremaine was a blitzer in college. Now the downside was they ran him up the A gap like an idiot. Can someone tell the Jets that you don't run Breece Hall between the guards? Like, that's not. Can somebody please, for the love? I feel like I'm watching David Johnson again. Like, I know he's big. I know he's powerful. but he's not that kind of big and powerful.
That's why you have Braylon Allen. Like you don't.
That's right. That's right.
I don't get it either, Paul.
So frustrating, dude.
Well, Rodgers is calling the plays.
Really good players get misused. I know that. I'm a Bills fan, right? So I know what that sounds like.
That's fine. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers probably still thinks he has Aaron Jones back there. It's his fault. But once again, I put in the chat, Buffalo Bills tied a record with 13 players catching a touchdown pass with that Tyrell Shavers touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Allen included in that number, obviously.
That's right.
Interesting. I didn't know who they tied, but you talk about, I don't know. I don't want to say doing more with less because it seems like a cop out, but being able to spread the wealth. I mean, you have really no one to key on. And the fact that
I see what you did there.
I'm not making a joke there. The fact that Amari Cooper seems kind of underused at this point. Do you think that he's going to be an absolute monster once the playoffs come around?
First off, can we give Amari Cooper just a big Sean McDermott clap up for that touchdown catch? Nobody's making that catch. There's no corners defending that, right? Like, just absolutely perfect. What a dog that guy is, man. What an absolute dog.
A quiet dog.
Yeah. Hey, that's what it is. But hey, let's go over to Bill's Twitter PR. Bill's PR Twitter, excuse me. That's trying to make up something there. Josh Allen becomes the first player ever with 5 straight 40-plus TD seasons. The Bills set a team record for touchdowns and points scored. There's still a week to play. The Bills tied the NFL record for players 13 to catch a TD. Don't think that they're not going to try and break that next week. If you want a big man touchdown, Deion Dawkins, Joe Andreessen may get looks. Like, you got to understand, like, anything's possible. If you don't think they're going to try and find a way to get somebody a touchdown who hasn't had one yet, it's going to happen, right? And went undefeated at home for the first time since the 90s, which is unbelievable, right?
The fact that Josh Allen is not 30 yet and tied Thurman Thomas, a running back, with his 65th touchdown, career touchdown. Yep. That is phenomenal.
Yep. Let's keep going here. Josh Allen is the MVP. Sean McDermott said it in a post-game presser. Christian Benford picks off Aaron Rodgers, marking Benford's second INT of the season. And then Rousseau obviously was credited with the sack there. Trubisky, that 69-yard touchdown. He is, again, the 13th player to catch. I wish they did state who the other team was. They don't on the Bills Twitter, on the Bills PR Twitter. They don't state who it was. I wish I knew who it was.
Yeah. We'll try to look that up for you. Hashtag.
Today marks the first time since 1998 the Bills had a defensive safety. That's crazy. And the Bills have, again, franchise record by one singular point. Sneaks out, and then that will obviously go up, right? But the fact that like here, the Bills touchdown marked the 61st TD of the year, established a new franchise record, surpassing 60 from 2022. Just a lot to celebrate as a Bills fan, right? There's just so much to celebrate.
And it's interesting enough, happening in 16 games, not the 17th game.
That's
so
right.
You can't really put an asterisk next to it, but so it was still within 16 games. This offense seems like it's on fire. It seems like it's but it seemed like this offense has been consistent. It's not like it's, how we talked about Joe Burrow a little bit earlier, how as of late he's just been on fire. The Bills offense kind of has been like this the entire year, where it's okay, we can drag you up and down the field for 9 minutes if we want to, or we could score in 4 plays. How do you want it?
Right.
Like, what do we have to do here? Like I said, and I've said it multiple times, someone Donnie tried to be funny, fire McDermott. I will say that the management of the game, which is paramount in the playoffs, because you're not going to get blowouts all the time in the playoffs, is going to be concerning for me still, because he still has not learned.
Yep.
So it is what it is. It is what it is. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm not going to sit there and hang my hat on a McDermott play call or a decision in a game to go for it and all this other stuff. So
and Mar, unsung hero for this season, James Cook with his 15th rushing TD. That's tying Josh Allen for the second most rushing TDs in a single season by a Bill. I think a lot of fans, you just kind of quickly overlook the fact that James Cook has 15 rushing touchdowns.
Because he doesn't have 1,000 yards rushing yet.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. Yeah. Isn't it?
He brings up a very interesting topic, though. I mean, you going to resign him or just keep recycling that position? But I mean, which is probably a topic for another day. We could spend 15 minutes on that.
Yeah, probably. That's a tough one. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that one yet.
Okay. Penalties, 23 total in the game with the Buffalo Bills versus New York Jets, which probably is similar to the first game, which was unwatchable. The 23-20 game that was happening in Jersey. Leave a flag in your pocket, dude. Mm-hmm. You throw flags early in the game to set the precedent of what you will allow and what you won't. If you're not allowing anything, then you're going to be in your pocket all day talking to the PA announcer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let them play. Let these guys. These are two physical divisional rivals.
Oh, the game was chippy early on, Mar.
Oh God, Dawkins he instigates everybody. I swear to God,
he does.
I love Dawkins. Oh man, what a huge individual, too. Did you see him when they had that pregame thing where he was sitting there with Spencer Brown? Spencer Brown's 6'8" monster, and Dawkins sitting next to him. His calves are like the size of my entire body. It's crazy how big this man is. It's not even fair.
That's how they make calves on guards. So,
I knew it was coming. I was just waiting for it.
Yeah, he'd be the greatest guard to ever play in the game of football.
Paul, as we come close to the end of the broadcast that we have, the infamous question: second seed's locked up. You're not going to improve or drop. Mm-hmm. You didn't get the bye week, so do you, as the Buffalo Bills, manufacture your own bye week against a division opponent in the New England Patriots in the last game of the season?
I think that for me is always so tough. I think you expect your starters to play the half. I think you do treat it like a preseason game. You prepare. One of the biggest things about the NFL is rhythm. And once you get into a state of preparedness, you got to go through that often. That's one of the reasons why when there's an injury and you see a player step in and start that week, it's often a rocky road. It's not because that player is not talented. It's because there's a method and a process to being a starter in the NFL. There's a toll that it takes on your body getting ready for a game, and let alone all the snaps that you take during a game. So I do not believe that you do anything but prepare like you're going to start everyone. And then maybe you do what you did a couple weeks ago, where if Milano's a little banged up, you don't play him. If Douglas is a little banged up still, you don't play him, right? There might be some players you do that with. But for the most part, I think the vast majority of your team, if they're starters, you have them prepare to be starters. And then you play a bunch, and then, you keep it real simple. Much like what they did against the Patriots, right? They said, we're not going to show our hand. We're not going to put anything on film. I think the Bills walked away with this game doing almost exact same thing, right?
Yeah, there wasn't much crazy stuff that they did today.
No. Yeah, no, there really wasn't. I did like the fact that they put Joe Anderson in motion. Like, that's one of those plays. So it's like, people are going to forget about that play.
There's that
you
one.
haven't put him in motion. So putting him in motion in a game that doesn't mean anything, it's like, okay, well, Kansas City does stuff like that. Like,
what about the game before it?
For them.
Remember the game before it?
Mm-hmm.
Him and Cook shifted over.
Yep.
Allen and Cook, and it was a wildcat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an inside handoff to Allen.
That's what I mean. You got to put little silly stuff out like that on tape, right? You have to put it on tape. You have to make teams prepare for it. But the fact of the matter is, I think this will be a very vanilla game, and I would expect Josh to play. I would expect Cook to play. I would expect Cooper to play. I would expect Keon to play. I would expect, but to your point, right? May not see DeMar because you might just play Bishop the whole game, because if he gets hurt at that point, you're not
losing anything.
You're not right. Exactly. So
plus you got Hyde in the kitchen. So, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. Right.
Still got Hyde there. You know what I mean? That's the reason why you do this. And
you may see Hyde play, right? That may be a game where you activate him and say, listen, we're going to put you out there. We're going to put you out there on third downs. We're going to put you out there in, specific looks and specific sets. And we're just going to see how this thing goes. Yeah. I mean, that is absolutely a game. It's your last chance. to see what it looks like before it matters. Right. Yeah,
No, I was gonna say, speaking of last chances, Elam.
Oh God.
You
Unless
weren't
you're
here
gonna be
last
playing,
week, dude. It was tough on
yeah.
the post with Elam. But
Mhm.
I
The
would
Bills
say
had to play
this.
man coverage.
Yeah.
They playing zone was not an option. They had
Yeah.
to put him in man, and he just gets beat up. He has really poor ball awareness. Like,
Mhm.
oh man, Jenkins, we're not going to see Codrington at corner, aren't we? Like,
Your best
I
return
understand.
man at corner? I don't know.
Well, we saw
I wouldn't.
Codrington. Codrington played today at
He did.
corner
He did.
at the end of the game.
He likes
You
getting
know,
guys some work. I understand that.
yeah,
And
he should
I
be out
would
there with a
venture,
step lather.
stop it.
He's a little person.
He is not tall. I
No.
understand. Okay. Neither was Darren Sproles, but
Big difference between corner and running back.
true.
Big difference.
Very true. Very true. We had a couple turf monsters in my day playing Division 3 that were pretty good corners. I will venture to say this, Paul. If the Denver Broncos would have beat the Cincinnati Bengals, so you knew that was your first round opponent. You don't really know right now. So if you knew, I would venture to guess that the starters would have been rested against New England, so they can get an extra week in preparation for Denver. But now that you don't know, you're like what you just laid out is the perfect recipe, because get your guys ready to go. Here's what they're going to do. You do what you have to do to the half, maybe a series after the half, because you like that halftime preparation and stuff like that. Because you're not really 100% sure. You're not going to prepare for 2 different teams, 3 different teams, right. 4 different teams that may be in it. But if Denver would have won, I think that you would have seen a start by Mitch Trubisky. Honestly, 100%. You would have seen 100% backups, because they would have been getting ready for Denver. The week that the backups were getting ready for New England, the starters would have been getting ready for Denver to have an extra week to prepare. At least in my mind, I thought I figured
interesting. That's interesting. But I mean, that's not the boat that we're in.
No,
not anymore.
Not
one thing that I forgot to mention: Amari Cooper surpassed 10,000 career receiving yards today.
Ooh,
yeah,
all with Buffalo. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I saw the stat. It was like that was his 4th receiving touchdown this year. I was like, poor Cooper.
I know, right?
Poor Cooper.
He had one in his first game with Buffalo, and then
this one. It was his 2nd receiving touchdown with the Bills. That's it.
When was he drafted? I want to say 4th overall in 2015.
That was a lot of dog years ago, wasn't it?
That was a lot of dog years ago.
Yeah, he's still not 30. How's that feel?
That is right. Wow. What did Buffalo take that year?
Oh, are we really going to play this game?
I love this game. This game's funny.
Oh, God.
2015, they did not have a first round pick. You know why? 2014 was Sammy Watkins.
Oh. That's how long ago this was?
This is how long ago we're talking. God. This was a draft with Bud Dupree, Shane Ray, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Dante Fowler.
Oh, I'm sorry. And excuse me, Cooper turned 30 in June of this year. Sorry, excuse me. Cooper is now 30.
Buffalo took Ronald Darby in their first pick that year. I'm done. I'm closing this window before it infects me. I'm done. I'm so done with that. We covered that draft, Paul.
I know we did.
That was a sad draft to cover.
I remember sitting there the draft before that. I remember sitting there during the Sammy Watkins draft going, oh my God, the Bills are going to get Khalil Mack. Oh my God.
I know.
Buffalo's going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to take a kid that played at UB in the top 5 of an NFL draft. It's going to happen, right? Bills have announced a trade. Oh, this has got to be for Khalil Mack. Sammy Watkins, you're like, he ran like 4 routes past the line of scrimmage the whole year. But here we were, drinking the Kool-Aid about how excited we were. I have a Sammy Watkins blanket.
Oh, no, you do not.
I currently own a Sammy Watkins blanket. Yeah.
I currently have a Diggs jersey somewhere that had the nameplate redone.
You replaced it?
Yes. It was Watkins, then it was Diggs. Hey, I was wearing my freshly minted Greg Rousseau jersey today that used to be Kiko Alonso.
Everybody's like, where'd that white where'd that white Rousseau jersey come from?
That wasn't there then. Oh my God. That's so funny. Truck reviewer coming in. I love it. Was Mario's coach named Malarkey? No, he was not. Oh, that's so funny. All right. Paul, do we do a roast?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Roast?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hard to roast when we're celebrating all these milestones from the Bills, but hey, we'll do one. We'll do a roast, guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do one.
If you're new here, the 66 people, make sure you hit that like button on your way out. It lets YouTube know that we're a couple of goofballs that like talking about the Bills. The other thing is this: make sure that you check the description of this video for the brochure for Mr. Rogers Homes, our sponsor for today's video. Also, you can find all of our socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you go to our link tree, you can find all of that really cool stuff. Some of the stuff that's on YouTube, you'll see different stuff on TikTok. You'll see different stuff on Instagram. You'll see different stuff on Twitter. So it'll be a lot of fun. But one of the things that we do when the Bills win, we roast. So you could roast us. You can roast anyone. Just make sure you keep it clean. It's a family channel. So 3 minutes on the clock going on right. Yeah.
And I want to point out that thanks to Sean from Mr. Rogers Homes, they now have an app which if you go over to Mr. Rogers Homes YouTube channel, you'll be able to see their app, far more functional in finding your next investment property or a new home in Arizona. So go make sure to give a follow over to Sean on his YouTube channel, subscribe, and then go ahead and check out that app that is newly minted. That's a newly minted app.
Newly minted, fresh car smell.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm trying to find a site where they do the history of jersey numbers, and it's not easy.
Oh God, I know what you're doing. I don't want to go there. I don't know what you're doing, but I don't.
Well, I think there's a fun debate here of if you went through the greatest players to wear every jersey number. I think that's a ton of fun, right? Like, I think there's some that are off limits, right? But number 0 is a new one. Like, it's got Naeem Hines or Keon Coleman. End of list, right? Like, this could be super fun.
Paul is the Peterman of YouTube. Finally, the first one out the gate is Donnie put in here, said the Bills win the Super Bowl. Mario has to write an apology letter to. Why do I have to write? Why doesn't Ryan have to write it? This is what I don't understand.
Yeah,
Ryan has to write
Fire McDermott. He's been on the Fire McDermott train for a few years.
Since 13 seconds. He makes that point. He wanted to fire him after 13 seconds. Yeah. Which I can't blame him. He's been a Bills fan a lot longer than I am.
Well, and look, the NFL changed the rules. No more squib kicks. So we never have to worry about that one again. Right? Like there's no more of the big, they should have squib kicked it, right? That's over. Then those days are gone now. Which I'm glad for. Yeah, of course, Sean. Thank you very much.
Not so much a roast, but thank you, gentlemen, for all you do. Go Bills. Thank you.
I told Sean, because Sean and I spoke just a couple days ago, and I was like, Sean, you would have a lot of perspective on what it's like to what a Super Bowl does to a community, because we talk all the time about like championship caliber, right? Yes. Like they want people who have been there, because the Super Bowl is such a circus. Because the Super Bowl is in Arizona where Sean is. So how crazy was the city, and how would that impact players getting ready for a game? They're being supplanted. It's not just an away game. Oh, yeah. There's a whole circus that comes along with that. So how much of that is really smoke versus how much of that is fact, and what's the fiction and what's not. So I'd be very curious to talk to Sean about, sort of the circus that comes along in the Super Bowl city side of things, and how that impacts, what players have said post that. I'd be super curious to talk to Sean, because the Super Bowl was just in Arizona.
That's what is this?
It's the internet, Mario. This is the internet.
The fact that it's coming from Aaron If Rodgers retires, Mario is next in line for a Rex Ride.
No, he'd have to shave his knuckles for that. That's not going to happen.
What?
You know you got hairy knuckles.
I do
You know
not
you
have
got
hairy
hairy toe knuckles.
I do not have hairy. Oh, I thought you said hands.
Toe.
No.
I said toe knuckles. Yeah.
Toe knuckles. I don't
Yeah.
think I have hairy toe knuckles. We'll have to check.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's the timer.
Oh boy, hold on. We just had a bunch that just came in.
Oh, okay. All right, there we go. We'll read these.
Yeah, Jim Kelly. Yeah, at least Tyrod looked good for the Jets. Jim Kelly can let you know not to party all night long. Yeah, well, that's I think who got fired after the one Bills. Who got fired? Is their defensive coordinator? I think got fired after the whole defense was out partying all night long. Yeah, they did. They would not accept the goodwill Sammy Watkins blanket.
They thought it was a fire rescue blanket. Stop, drop, and roll. Look at galleries. I love just sitting there right at the edge, sneaking that bad boy in underneath the deadline.
That's it. I love it. Yeah, there's all knuckles.
What? That ain't I do.
Yeah. When Mario looks like when Mario wears Crocs, it looks like he has a herd of troll dolls stuffed in his toes.
It's the D, isn't it? Is it Frodo Baggins? Or is it a T?
You're a math teacher. Let's not go down this road.
I won't.
You're not going to gain anything.
I'm off the clock anyway. I didn't even know the Bills were playing until 11 o'clock today.
That's true. You didn't know it was Sunday.
Calling out Washington's O-line. Oh, it was Chuck Dickerson. I know Luke would have.
That's right.
Luke would have our back. Yes.
Thanks. Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Then the coach went on to have a prevalent career of yelling into a microphone on local Bills radio. The coach.
And then that was the game. Oh yeah, that was the one where Thurman forgot his helmet.
Sure was. Yeah.
So the MVP of the league forgot his helmet. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the story, Mario. The band moved it when they got on the field to do the national anthem. Okay. E equals Mick D squared. That's so stupid. Why am I laughing at that? That's so good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Paul. I am Mario. We are Hashtag Sports for Bills Mafia, Hashtag Nation. Thank you for joining us for the Hashtag Sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus New York Jets, Part 2, where the Bills shellacked the New York Jets 40-14 in order to give themselves a clinch of the second seed in the AFC, which the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL reside. So we're out of here. You guys enjoy your New Year's, and hopefully you enjoyed your Christmas as Paul dabs. And we are out of here. Have a good
Bills victory dabs.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul, as well as the rest of the Hashtag Sports crew. It's an honor being a sponsor. Investing in real estate, especially in the Phoenix metro area, may change your financial picture forever. And it's easier than you may think. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and proud of it. Yet I live in the Valley of the Sun, have for decades, and love it. I also humbly run one of the top real estate teams in Arizona. We help others score, as it were, when it comes to buying, selling, renting, and of course, investing in real estate. I've been a multi-million-dollar producer for many years, and the Mr. Rogers Homes Arizona real estate team has earned the top spot at West USA Realty for 10 years plus. Again, thank you, Hashtag Sports, Go Bills, and